for all of us. It's about predicting where the consumer is going and getting half of it right.
One of the things we want to do is create ads that don't suck.
Embracing change creates great possibility.
I'm Alan Hart, and this is Marketing Today.
Today on the show, I've got Lee Thompson. He's the co-founder and CMO of Flash Pack. Lee spent the last decade reinventing the meaning of group travel for those with a passion to explore. He's a born adventurous. His appetite for the great unknown began early on with a career in photojournalism that took him to some of the world's most remote and off-the-radar locations. In between gigs, a chance first date with his now co-founder and CEO led them to create Flash Pack, a travel brand dedicated to small group adventures rooted in friendship. On the show today, we talk about that story and how Flash Pack came about. We talk about who they're serving today, the plague, if you will, of loneliness in the world, and how they're trying to solve that one person at a time. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with Lee Thompson. Well, Lee, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I know this is going to be fun. We get to talk about travel and entrepreneurship and a whole bunch of stuff. But before we do that, one of the jobs that I always kind of dreamed about, you've actually done. You've been a photojournalist, and I have to know, like, what has been some of your most memorable moments doing that?
I have a lot of amazing, memorable moments to share. But there is one very random story that I guarantee has never been told on this podcast because it's quite unbelievable. But I was the first journalist to find the Libyan dictator, Colonel Gaddafi's body just after he was killed in Libya. So just hours after he was killed. And we all saw that footage on the news. He came to a bit of a brutal ending via the rebels. And I found him in a supermarket fridge. I kid you not.
Oh my God.
I had to step over the dead body of the Libyan foreign minister and his son. And then Gaddafi was at the end of the fridge. And I took the first picture. I even held his golden gun.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I mean, so many questions in my mind. Like, one, how did you end up? I mean, were you on assignment in Libya covering the conflict? Like, what was going on there?
Yeah, I went to Libya a couple of times during that war. It's back in 2011 now. But as part of that assignment, it was to cover the whole war. And before Gaddafi was killed, I went into his house when it was first overtaken by the rebels. I was shot at a couple of times. But when Gaddafi was killed, I was there first on the scene, managed to get to Libya really quickly. And I got to take part in all the celebrations from the rebels once he died. It was probably the most amazing experience of my life.
Yeah. I mean, you were witnessing history in the making.
I was so privileged to see it as well. Yeah.
I mean, not to make light of it, but I mean, like, just the starkness of having to literally go into a refrigerator, step over dead bodies to then see Gaddafi's body as well. I mean, it's hard to even fathom what was potentially going through your head, not to mention having been shot at and other things along the way. So
yeah, no, this is what I used to do for my career. So like 15 years, I was a photojournalist. So this was a highlight, so to speak. But I also covered like the Japanese tsunami. I went to Guantanamo Bay. I covered earthquakes, volcanoes, you name it. So it wasn't unusual in my career, but it was certainly something that stood out.
That's amazing. Well, business must be an easy piece of cake now. I mean, after living in environments like that and working in environments like that, I have to ask, like, how did you transition from photojournalism to now being the co-founder and CMO at Flash Pack?
So the one thing that photojournalism taught me is the art of storytelling. In order to get a front page picture, I worked at the national and international media. You literally have to tell a story with your picture. And it's not as easy as it sounds to do that. Sometimes you have to make something out of nothing. And I believe that's at the core of any marketing. It's really strong storytelling. And that has naturally led me into this path of setting up my own business, Flash Pack, and leading its marketing.
Where did you guys, where did you get your start in this effort? And I guess, was it an immediate transition from photojournalism to Flash Pack?
So this is the part where I tell you that I got lucky, basically. I wasn't one of these people that kind of set out to start my own business. I didn't realize I had this skill beyond photography, which was, storytelling and people and lots of useful things that I take in my career today. But essentially, I went on a date, and on the first date with a lady called Radha, we got on really well. We talked about travel. We shared a love of wine and travel and adventure. And she tells me this business idea that she was desperate to create. And as a single 30-something at the time, she didn't have anybody to travel with. All her friends were busy getting married and having kids. And she really didn't feel like there was a solution out there for a single 30-year-old female with a really cool aspirational brand, somewhere where she could travel and fit in without feeling isolated from the rest of her friends. And as she was telling me this story, my eyes were just lighting up. I was like, wow, not only is this person so nice and so interesting, but she's also got a belting business idea. And I resonated with the idea. I also didn't have anybody to travel with. My friends were busy. And believe it or not, we spent the next 7 days dating every single evening, but actually beginning to set up what is now known as Flash Pack. We went and researched the travel industry. We went and read books in the library about setting up a business. This is how we bonded. And Radha is now my wife, my co-founder, CEO. I report into her as well. Let's not go into that. And we have a baby together. Well, I say a baby. She's 5 years old now. So the rest is history.
Oh, wow. I mean, yeah, I think you are the luckiest man on earth. And she probably would agree with that. I mean, so you're on a date. You're like, wow, this is really going well. And then you proceed to date 7 days in a row and work on a business idea all together. Did you guys know at that time that this was both romantic and business? Or did that take a little time to unpack? Did you ever have a moment, and maybe the second question, did you ever have a moment where you're like, should we be doing both of these things?
It was adventure. Ultimately, it was the world's greatest adventure. I met someone amazing. The idea of setting up a business just filled us both with so much energy, and we knew we wanted to do it together, which is quite incredible, really. I would say that we didn't think about the consequences of what that might mean and the stress that it might bring later on in life, but we just went for it. We didn't think about the negatives at all. We could only see success out of it, both in marriage and, which we married a few years later, and business. But also my past as a photojournalism. So Radha was extremely good with business, finances, legals, all those really crucial components for setting up a business. And I naturally was very good with photography and video, which meant that I could really clearly see, especially once we started researching the travel industry, how we could build a strong brand that would stand out and become an aspirational business for people in their 30s and 40s.
I love that. Well, tell me about the business. Tell me about Flash Pack. What is the business, and who are you guys serving today?
Sure. So Flash Pack bring together groups of solo travelers in their 30s and 40s. And we send groups of up to 14 people away all across the world. We're in 70 different countries now. And we take care of everything. So it's hassle-free. We bring together people who don't know each other to make friends. And actually 80% of our customers stay in touch. So we're onto a good thing. And we stay in boutique hotels. We do experiences like staying on your own private island in the Arctic Circle. So you've got like uninterrupted views of the Northern Lights, or staying in converted Range Rovers in the Serengeti to get the greatest view of the wildebeest migration. So it's very unique, very aspirational, very premium, and hard to do by yourself, ultimately. And going back to my photojournalism and how we launched, we actually came up with an idea to take the world's first selfie on top of Christ the Redeemer statue in Rio de Janeiro. And it was just before the World Cup. And everyone was talking about the selfies. It was a real selfie craze back then. And it was that picture, once I convinced the head of the church in Rio to let me to the top with our last £800 that we had, because we didn't raise much money in the early days. And that went insanely viral, literally with 100 million impressions around the world, every single country across the world. And that launched us. So it was really very useful to have those photojournalism skills and launch the business, which has now gone on to be a big success.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, the packages that you described as well, like the adventure. I mean, it's adventure, premium, and being in the action. It mirrors a little bit of your photojournalist career to some degree, but in a travel friendly way. And amazing that you're able to leverage your skills from before to actually help the business take off.
Very much so. Yes.
Well, I know starting a business is hard. I can only imagine. Well, I actually have done business with my wife as well. We did not do it at this outset of our relationship. Maybe we would have learned even more about ourselves quickly if we had.
Absolutely.
But business is hard. And I believe in our prior conversation, you said to me, you've had to build the business twice. Do I have that right?
Yes. So after the success of that selfie, and we got a lot of confidence to grow our business, but we decided to bootstrap Flash Pack. And by bootstrap, I mean, we put in $15,000 of our own money, got into a fair bit of credit card debt, let's say. In fact, the other day, I dug out around 40 different credit cards. We became very good at putting money from one to the other. It became a bit messy, but we decided to bootstrap the business. And actually from 2016, which is when we quit my photography job and Radha quit her other job, and we went full time, we actually built Flash Pack to $27 million in revenue within 5 years. So just before 2020.
It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, that was, a team of 75 people. And because we just tapped into a niche that was completely untapped, this audience of people in their 30s and 40s, none of our competitors were talking to them. And we really found a good thing and got strong product market fit, both in the UK and the US. And things are going pretty amazing, to be honest. Just by March 2020, just before the pandemic hit, which I'll come on to in a minute, we were on the cusp. We just secured, our business was valued at 50 million, and we were about to secure a Series A, our first fundraise, and literally about to go into DD, due diligence. And then COVID was kind of looming at the time. You could just see this thing happening, and it didn't look good at all. We were watching the drama unfold in Italy, and suddenly Donald Trump decided to close all the borders in the US, something I just did not see coming. And it was Friday, the 13th of March. I remember it because it was the worst day of my life by a long way. Our revenue just stopped overnight. It literally just completely and utterly stopped. And the thousands of people that, we'd spent the best part of 6 months marketing and bringing into the company all wanted a refund. So we were in deep trouble, really.
Yeah. I mean, how do you just go into survival mode at that point? Like, if you can take yourself back there, like what was, like, how did you tackle each day after that?
So for the first 7 months, so this is from March up until around November 2020, it was pure survival mode. In fact, me and Radha joked one day, if it did feel like the trenches, it just felt that everything was coming at us. There was a lot of angry customers because we couldn't afford to pay them refunds. This is the problem.
Yeah.
And it was an awful, awful time, not just in the business, but as parents as well. We're trying to raise a 1-year-old child at the time. It was very, very hard. You can't see friends and family. No one really understood the position we were in. And it went from that. Something me and Radha, it's actually a benefit to be in a business with your spouse because we work incredibly well as a team. So Radha was able to go out there and try and find a funder, someone that can back us even in the height of COVID to try and save our business. And I was out there just kind of helping our customers get refunds or just managing that communication with them. But ultimately, we tried everything and we spoke to 50 different funders, but couldn't get any investment whatsoever because everyone was managing their own losses. So by November 2020, we had to put the business into administration or bankruptcy, and we lost everything.
Wow. So when did you resurface to say, yeah, let's try this again?
So almost immediately, we were given an opportunity to buy our business back. Over here, in the UK, it's called a pre-pack. So essentially, you lose the debt, but gain your website or your social media accounts, all the good stuff, your brand, your trademarks, all that. And so we were the highest bidder because we were able to raise money from remortgaging our home and from friends and family. And we then went on a massive mission almost immediately without any rest whatsoever. Radha set out to try and raise money again from funders, and I set out to save our brand. And at this point, we've still got thousands of customers that needed a refund. But this is the thing today that I'm most proud of. For 1 year of my life, up until 2021, I spent on the front line helping our customers get a refund. I set up a dedicated inbox, and literally it's all I did from 5 a.m. till 10 o'clock at night, just helped our customers. And I managed to get every single customer their refund back via a very, very complicated refund process. Yeah. And at the end of the year, just before November 2021, Radha managed to raise a multi-million fundraise from one of the biggest private funds in Europe.
That's amazing comeback.
Amazing comeback, yeah. And since our relaunch in November 2021, we've now back up to 75 employees in 10 different countries, in fact, 12 different countries, including 10 in America. And revenue has now far exceeded where we left off. It's been a whirlwind, but I'm actually, dare I say it, really grateful for the experience. I have to say, I can actually look back now and say that I'm grateful for COVID because I'm a much stronger leader and we've got a much stronger business.
Yeah. It's just an amazing, amazing story. And the fact that through it all, you're still happily married. You have a 5-year-old child. It's quite the story. It's a first for me to have the privilege to have an interview with somebody like this that's gone through as much as you've gone through, and to be back on the upside and doing better than you were when it all started. So
absolutely, yeah, and so many lessons learned. I'm a much stronger marketer now. I'm a much stronger manager of people, a stronger leader, and I think we're better off because of that experience. They say, don't they? Like it from an investments perspective, it's better to back second-time founders. I understand that now. I'm a different type of founder.
I love that. Well, let's talk a little bit about the travel market that you serve, this solo travel, if you will. Like when I think about group travel, and I've worked in the industry a little bit, historically, I would call it the Q-tips on a bus business. Yeah, and what I mean by that is typically it was older folks, white hair, hence the Q-tip analogy, on bus trips and in various places. It could be cruises, cruise ships, etc. How does your model and your market, obviously it's the entire opposite of what I just described, but tell us about the market for solo travel and what should we know about it?
So solo travel is booming right now. And fundamentally, one of the reasons behind that is that 57% of New Yorkers in a survey from the Health Commission last year say they feel alone. And this is similar in almost every busy urban city across the world. In tandem, everybody is talking about the importance of friendship and the damage loneliness can do. So I read a survey, listened to a podcast recently where a professor said that feeling lonely is the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So this isn't this is really, really important. So Flash Pack's mission is to create 1 million friends. And in our marketing, everything we do is all around friendship. We talk about the group, actually the opposite, like you say, to that kind of image of people on a bus tour. Maybe they're older, maybe the guide's got like a follow me sign, like it's not very cool.
Yeah.
But it is cool to meet people who are just like you. Maybe they're feeling isolated, maybe they've just come out of a divorce, maybe they're on a sabbatical from work. It doesn't really matter, but meeting new people is a great thing to do. And there is no better way to bond a group of people that don't know each other and make friends than adventure. And this is why Flash Pack is winning. I think the fact that we make that 80% of our customers keep in touch regularly and go and meet each other in different countries means it's not just travel, and people aren't just buying travel, they're buying friendship.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the antidote to loneliness, it sounds like.
Absolutely. And no one else is championing this. We feel like we are the brand that can help make the world feel less isolated. We can lead on this, and we don't talk about travel very often, but we just talk about friendship and connection.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think the pivot for me, as I hear you talk about it, I mean, is that your mission or your objective is to create 1 million friends, not to deliver a great travel experience, which is probably where most of any of the people that are even a potential competitor of yours stop, right? They don't go all the way.
Yeah, and we take this stuff really seriously. Like we have first of all, we have a whole load of community events across New York, Los Angeles, London. We bring people together. We play a game of like human bingo where each person submits a fun fact about them, and you go around trying to figure out who that belongs to. And we have, when you turn up on day one of our trips, there's like an icebreaker to get to know everybody. We move people around so they sit next to someone different on the bus. We have like a bonding activity on day 2 of the trips, like abseiling down Table Mountain in South Africa, something that really bonds a group and gets them to share an experience together. So we obsess over group dynamic across the company in order to have this effect.
I love that. Well, and you've talked about, you've recently expanded employees into the US. How does the US, I mean, you talked about New York and what you're doing from a community building. How does the US market play a role for Flash Pack?
So we started getting Americans. I mean, we're a London-based startup. This is where we founded the company. But we started getting Americans booking on our adventures really early on in our journey back in 2016, organically. And since then, America has fast become our fastest growing market. The opportunity there is huge. I mean, we're over in England, a very small island compared to you guys. And furthermore, the US economy is thriving compared to the UK one. Over the last few years, it's bounced back quicker from COVID than we have. And for that reason, America is very much the opportunity that we're going for. And it's now 65% of our total customer base from the UK. Until recently, where we've started employing people. We have 10 employees, as I mentioned before, across New York and Austin and Miami. And Radha and I and Anya, our daughter, are moving to the US in the summer. So we're taking this seriously and evolving from a UK-based business to an American one.
That's amazing. Well, congrats on the move. Are you going to New York, or are you going to one of these other places?
We considered New York because most of our customers are in New York.
Yeah.
But we are heading for sunnier climate in Miami. So we've got a similar amount of customers over in Miami and Los Angeles. And we quite fancy Miami because it's on the same time zone as the UK, and it's hot. It's really not hot where I am in London right now.
Right. I love it. Well, we have to talk about your video that I saw, I think, which was what led us to meet, which is around trying to get people in New York City to be your friend. And you took this like man on the street style video, and it was one part hilarious, but I could not wait to see what happened next. Like the next person and the next person that you came in contact with. What was that video all about?
Honestly, this is the most terrifying thing I've ever gone and done. I like to challenge myself. I think I've done a lot of interesting things in my life, but there was nothing more scary than asking random strangers if they would be my friend on the streets of New York. The reason I did this, because as a travel company, it's not always easy to gain media coverage on the subject of friendship and our mission of 1 million friends. So you have to create the news and open up a conversation about friendship. And this video did exactly that. Again, shining a light on that 57% of New Yorkers who feel lonely stat. I got a secret camera crew with long lenses. I had a microphone in my backpack, and I hit the streets of New York from the subway to the streets during commutes in Manhattan, Central Station, all the kind of classic sites across New York. and went up to people and said, will you be my friend? I didn't even say, excuse me, sorry to bother you, just went straight in there. And naturally, as you can imagine, the majority of people ignored me. Some were rude, some were really rude. If you watch the video, I guess I expected that. They didn't really want me there and had other places to go. And that's fine. They could have been nicer, but that's okay. But actually, I would say that 1 in 7 people were lovely, started talking to me immediately. And I had some great conversations and managed to, in the space of 72 hours, managed to get a group of 6 people to a bar, did karaoke till the early hours of the morning with these strangers. And then what happened next was interesting because we shared the video across Flash Pack's social media, and some like Instagram accounts across New York picked it up as well, and the New York Post. But actually, I ended up with 1,500 friend requests from people who felt isolated also in New York and asked me if I'd be interested in meeting them again. So really interesting. And it opened up the conversation, and I made some new friends in the process. And it terrified me, and I'd never want to do it again.
I mean, it is courageous, to say the least, to go into one of the biggest cities in the world and just go straight at people. Will you be my friend?
Yeah, I mean, the hardest bit, the most difficult bit, there was 2 elements. That I actually went and did stand-up comedy and asked a whole group of people in a comedy act if they'd be my friend. And that was the thing before the trip that I was most terrified of doing, because after I asked the question, at least I had to try and make people laugh.
Right.
And that was really scary. But during the day, we actually went onto the subway, and I went onto a subway and asked a whole packed carriage if they'd become my friend. That was more terrifying. So terrifying that when I went to do stand-up comedy, I just didn't care less. It was just easy. And I did get a laugh, in case you were interested.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good. Well, I mean, it was fun to watch. And as I was thinking about it, and I knew that this would potentially be a conversation with somebody that has a business, I was thinking to myself, I was like, this has more legs than one video. Like, I don't know where you're going with this, but this has a lot of legs to it, in my opinion. So I don't know if you have plans for what you're doing next.
Yeah, we do have plans. I'm a huge fan of this type of marketing. You don't know if it's going to work, but it's fairly low budget. It requires some effort and not caring whether you fail or not. And this worked for us. It clocked up nearly 1 million views, just short. And it's created all this opportunity. So we're talking to quite a few different companies and TV organizations. Maybe it's got longevity in it and potentially a friendship series, who knows? But we're already working on the next thing. And our mission is to try and reduce isolation, and we're targeting New York. So you may see me on the streets. So be nice.
I will be nice, and I will be your friend. I will be your friend. The funny thing to me is I think New York gets a bad rap in general. I don't live there, but I visit quite a bit for business and pleasure. And I love the fact that, like, it was almost like you said, 1 in 7 people were really nice and like
so
engaging.
Nice.
Yeah.
So nice. Yeah.
I think
coming back to London, I've just been wondering, like, I don't think Londoners are as nice as New Yorkers. I can say that now because I'm leaving. But New Yorkers were lovely. They're really nice. They're just really focused on going somewhere and overlooking what friendship can do and the benefits of it. And I think they need to be more tuned into that, because so many of them feel lonely.
Yeah. Well, it's been great getting to know you and getting to understand the business and the pivots that you've gone through over time. One of the things we love to do on this show is to get to know you even better. I feel like I probably know you better than I know most of my guests by this point in a conversation. but with that said, I cannot avoid asking my favorite question, which is, has there been an experience of your past that defines and makes up who you are today?
I really enjoyed thinking about this question, and I learned how to fail really early on in my life. I quit school at 16 because I failed all of my exams. I literally mean I got a big fat F next to most of my exams. And I really struggled academically and watched all my friends around me pass and go on to good universities. And I felt like a failure. So that is the biggest driver of my success so far, is that I can take failing. Like, if my New York video failed, that's okay. I'll just go on to the next thing. And it's a bit like when we lost our business, we just got back up again and went again. And I'm ready for the next failure. I'm sure there'll be more. But I think that's, at the time, felt like the worst thing. But it has done nothing but drive me. And I I believe that's what's led me to here now.
Yeah. It was definitely good training for what came next, for sure.
Absolutely.
Especially around COVID. Well, what advice would you give your younger self if you're starting this journey all over again?
It would go back to friendship. So I'm 41. I don't, up until recently, haven't had many friends. And something I've been terrible about from my whole life is keeping friendships. I haven't got many friends from back in my school days or from old companies I worked at. And I overlooked the importance of it, especially setting up a business and having a family. And, my wife's, my best friend, but the importance of guy friends and not having any. And we're talking at Flash Pack, we keep talking about our mission, but I very much fell into the camp of feeling lonely sometimes. And that's okay. But over the last year, I've made a lot of new friends. So it's important.
I love it. It's something I think I could be wrong. I mean, I've never done like data analysis on this, but I think there's something about guys, and I would imagine, I don't want to impose on you, but you've been very busy throughout your entire career, photojournalist, traveling around the world, doing really interesting things. I find myself as a guy, and I'm not really like a into sports kind of person, that like there's not a lot that guys talk about outside of sports.
No, we're really rubbish at opening up.
Yeah, it's really hard to build a meaningful conversation because we tend to only talk about surface stuff, and not even surface stuff that has no bearing on our personal lives. So
absolutely. Yeah, I've really had to practice that. I think opening up in front of a male friend is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
But once you do it, your friends are really up for doing it too. So I think we need to learn from the women on this, because women are a lot better at opening up to others, whereas men are pretty terrible. So it's one thing having good friends, but having the ability to open up beyond beer and sport is another challenge, but worth doing.
Very true. Well, you are a marketer. You're the CMO as well as a co-founder. Is there a topic you think marketers need to be learning more about, or something you're trying to learn more about yourself?
Yeah. So in Flash Pack 1.0, as I'll call it now, pre-COVID, we scaled Flash Pack on social media, on Facebook in particular, because it was such a good channel for us, but it accounted for around 90% of where all our bookings came from. And with Facebook, anyone that's ever marketed on that platform, you'll understand that you have to ride a roller coaster. It goes up and down, and it's very addictive channel. And we got really badly burnt by it. We got really diminishing returns for a few months on the trot and had to quickly diversify our channel mix. But it was a horrible experience and a huge lesson for me. So in Flash Pack 2.0, it's really been an understanding that marketing is not just a marketer's job. It's actually everybody in the business. It's about how you talk to your customers. It's about your innovation and how cool you are. It's your website experience. All of these things are crucial to obsess about. But of course, I think the brand that really nails this would be Airbnb. I think they've pivoted quite a lot from digital marketing into storytelling, and they lean really nicely on their product to tell PR and stories. And I think, so I'm continuously learning. I've not nailed this, but I do believe it's the ability to step away from paid media and into an organic one.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you on that. And I think there's some interesting things around how people are using quote unquote like branded entertainment, if you will, to help do that. And to be branded, like good branded entertainment actually has to be entertaining first.
Absolutely. Right? Yes.
So it's interesting. And I do like the Airbnb. Actually, their head of marketing's been on the show in the last couple of years talking about their push to storytelling as well. So it's a great example.
Yeah, they're able to do it through their product so beautifully that you just want to go on it. And honestly, it doesn't matter if no one ever buys that experience they're offering via PR, but it looks cool and it makes you want to buy from them. So that's what I try and do at Flash Pack. I try and tell stories through our product.
I love it. Well, are there any trends or subcultures that you're following now, or you think other people should take notice of?
User-generated content is quite a buzzword, but it is very relevant and is going to become more relevant. And by user-generated content, I mean content from your customers or your community. In our case, that would be guides and our suppliers. But it's really crucial to remember that you can't really polish it and make it look more on brand because customers see through that. They need to see it in its rawest sense. And it doesn't matter if it's not glossy or good quality. It's all about user-generated content. And I can actually see a world where nobody cares about reviews anymore in its typical format, but they look for social posts as that review, as the assurance before they buy something. So we're going big at user-generated content and trying to think about ways we can scale it and make it more accessible to our customers.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because like even in the last few weeks, I was looking for something on Amazon, and I went to the reviews, but I didn't actually pay much attention to the written copy. I was looking at the pictures that people posted of this thing in their house, right? And I was like,
absolutely.
Well, does it look like, because none of the pictures that are marketing or merchandising the item actually look like the real item sometimes. And so it's like, what does this look like in someone's real life, real house? So it's interesting, because I've been finding myself doing that now in certain cases. So
absolutely. Yeah, very important.
Well, last question for you. What do you think is the largest opportunity or threat facing marketers today?
I think some marketers can be lazy and follow that kind of status quo of marketing of like hitting those paid channels, which I talked about before, and seeing that as the way to do marketing is just scaling up, paid social and Google search. But it's a risky and unsustainable strategy. And I think I could have given an example like AI or something like that for this, but I really do think that it's the opportunity to focus on community, loyalty, and have a go at some guerrilla marketing as well, really deeply understanding your customers and driving all those key organic channels. I think that's the opportunity, but the threat is sticking to those paid channels and thinking you can get sustainable growth from that.
Love it. Well, Lee, it's been a fascinating conversation. I hope I can call you my friend now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love that.
And thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Thanks, Alan.
Hi, it's Alan again. Marketing Today was created and produced by me with post-production support from Sam Robertson. If you're new to Marketing Today, please feel free to write us a review on iTunes or your favorite listening platform. Don't forget to subscribe on marketingtodaypodcast.com. Tell your friends and colleagues about the show. I love hearing from listeners. You can contact me at marketingtodaypodcast.com. There you'll also find complete show notes and links to what was discussed in the episode today, and you can search our archives. I'm Alan Hart, and this is Marketing Today.